Professor Glory Ben Chendo, Professor Gabriel Ifani Ukafo, Professor Chico Ajebu.
Thank you.
Professor Flores Iyamo, Professor James Onoko, you are welcome, sir. Welcome to you, Professor Polakemi, Professor Nadine. Welcome, Professor Olusepu BA, Professor Ibude you are welcome. Professor James Onuku, welcome, sir. Welcome to you, Professor Izim Okechukwu, Professor Glory Ben Chendo, Professor Ishola Wasiu, Professor Ike Uguja, you're welcome. Professor Isaac Ajayi, welcome, sir. Professor Wajuba, you are welcome. Professor Shegun Zakias, Professor Ike Ugwaja. Welcome, Professor Ishola Wasiu. Professor Kabiri Tahin Hamid. Professor Glory Ben Chendo. Professor Solomon Olushola Amodu. Professor Folashade Ajayi. Professor Josiah Owolabi. Professor Olaremi Saliu. Professor Chinwe Ugu. Professor Samuel Wara, the Vice Chancellor, you're welcome, sir. Professor Solomon Olushola Amodu, welcome, sir. Professor Saka Badrat, Professor Ayi, Professor Oluremi Saliu, welcome. Professor Shegun Buhari, thank you for all you do. Professor Ebenezer Jonathan Ekefan, welcome. Professor Lawrence Akende, welcome. Professor Edwin Ojim Nono. Professor Bright Ezoha. Professor Mohammed Tanko. Professor Bashiru Okino. Professor Solomon Olushola Amodu. Professor Stella.
Sorry, my Karen, I just one of our big moms in the room.
Our own dear Professor Chenna Nzewi, we welcome you in a very special way.
Thank you very much.
Professor Josiah Owolabi, Professor Isa Hamid Mosaku, Professor Olayemi Asezobo, Professor Abosade Rusuf, Professor Edwin Ojim, Professor Stella Onyabako, Professor Stephen Onemisi, Professor Michael Adegoke.
Sorry, Ambassador Joy, since we have 5 minutes, I'm going to mute everybody now. They will not be able to unmute themselves, except, of course, the officials. like you, like our chairperson, the VC, and the speakers, so that we'll have a very quiet room. If you don't mind, do you have your permission to do that, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, please, Carol, you have to now unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, ma'am. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, yeah, I didn't make you co-host. Okay, fine. So you are now co-host, so you may wish to unmute yourself.
I've done that, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Facilitator General. On behalf of all Module 10 participants, I want to say we are eternally grateful for your generosity, your support, and all the sacrifices you are making for our academic well-being. At this moment, I'll request all that are going to participate in our today's activity to raise their electronic hands so that
I've actually made them co-host. I've done that, so they know. I've done it.
Sir. So we continue to welcome you all. Today is going to be a special day because we will eat from Nigeria and we will eat from Ghana, especially garnished meal with it is not going to be pounded yam. It is not going to be a goosey soup, but it is going to be highly enlightening, academic, nourishing delicacy that can help us to champion the cause of Module 10. So I urge you to get ready, come in, feel relaxed, and get prepared to be well fed by the two gurus that will champion our today's program. The first person on the menu is Professor Boniface Kayode Alese.
No, Aleshe. Let me help you there, Ambassador. Aleshe. Yes, that's it. Yes. Aleshe, not Aleshe. Not Aleshe. Aleshe.
Aleshe.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
The cerebral maestro from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, is always ready to fire up our minds. Then we have our brilliant Dr. Felicia Nkrumah of the Association of African Universities, Accra, who will season our thoughts with continental insights and wisdom. We urge you, our dear resource persons at this moment, to get prepared to feed us superbly. As you can see, today is going to be special. We shall enjoy Nigerian prepared insights and Ghanaian jollof of ideas, seasoned with experience, spiced with scholarship, and garnished with brilliance. In a very special way, I extend our heartfelt greetings to all our participants in Module 10, trusting that we shall pay much attention to benefit from what these academic giants have for us all today. Thank you, Facilitator General.
Thank you.
While we wait, I continue to welcome participants. Professor Stella Onyabako.
While we wait for what, ma'am?
For opening remarks from our Facilitator General.
Oh, I see. I'm so sorry, Ambassador. I'm so sorry. I welcome you all most warmly. Today is the 5th day of May, 2025, and we are taking the second in the series of our live lectures on Monday. And as our host, he was Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic and Ambassador, Professor Joy Yisi has mentioned, we have two juggernauts, to treat us. So welcome. And Professor Joy Yisi, are you the one to take the time? Because who is going to be your timekeeper? Is it John, or you do take it yourself?
Is it our own dear Professor John Oparaduru?
Yeah, Professor John Oparaduru, please let me know where you are so that I can make you co-host. Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll do that just now. Yeah, I'll make him co-host so that he can be alerting us. Let our speakers know that when they have 5 minutes more, that's in 15 minutes, you have 5 minutes more, we will prompt you gently that you have 5 minutes more. And as soon as that's done, John, I've made you co-host already. So we can then, stop it and let's just follow the time as we have. So it's exactly 2 o'clock by my watch. Over to you, our Mama, our ambassador.
Thank you so much. At this moment, we call on our chairman. Our chairman of today is Professor
you have some challenge with that?
Yes.
So here's the program.
Our chairman is Professor,
so that's it. So
our eloquent Professor Stephen Abba.
That's Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Health Sciences.
Professor Stephen Abba, yes, to give us his opening remarks. I'm sure he's in the room.
Oh, I think what I have is Rosalind Abba in the room. Professor Steve is not here.
But we have a co-chairman, sir, Professor Felix Akumwumi.
Professor Felix, let me try to get him muted. That's Akinwumi, yes. Yes, Professor Felix Akinwumi is in the room. I've made him co-host so he can give us the opening remarks. Professor Akinwumi, you have the floor, sir. If none of them, you know our rules, Mama. If none of them, we will just go up. And if our host is also out of the line, there's somebody else. Our host.
Here, sir.
Yeah, please. You know how we move this thing like clockwork. Yes, ma'am. So Professor Akinwumi is not active.
So we call on the first presenter, Professor Boniface Alessi, to give us the menu, to give us the meal he prepared for us this afternoon. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to talk to erudite professors and participants in this workshop. My name is Professor Boniface Alessi from the Federal University of Technology, Akure. Because of our time, I will not waste more time. It's a great honor for me to be allowed to speak to the erudite professors. But without wasting much time, let me just share my screen so that we can start, because that is the main reason why we are here. I don't know whether you can see my slide. I don't know whether my slide.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes, we've seen it.
Yes, just like I've said, my name is Professor Boniface Alessi. I'm a professor of information and cybersecurity, and at the same time, the Dean School of Computing, Federal University of Technology, Akure. To speak this afternoon on cybersecurity, keeping individuals safe. Before we go into the main menu, we need to, I know we would have taken lecture on this, the idea of cybersecurity. When you talk of cybersecurity, what does it actually mean? It's just a measure taken to protect our computer devices, the network, the data from unauthorized and criminal use. And there's something we call the cybersecurity triad, which is the idea of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which we call the CIA. But over the years, it has been expanded to include issues like access control. It has been expanded to include issues of non-repudiality. It has been extended to expanded to include authentication. Even today, now we are breaking the idea of fault tolerance. So it's a cybersecurity, like I normally say, is very, very dynamic, and every day new things continue to come in, both in terms of attack and in terms of defense. And quite a lot of things are coming up. And it's dated back to the 1970s when you first had the first computer virus called the Creeper. And it has evolved over the years with cybersecurity, with criminals becoming more sophisticated. We have daily activities today. I remember in 2019, when I was giving my inaugural lecture, the topic of that inaugural lecture was securing the world, the digital age, the metaphor of an unending game. Cybersecurity is actually a game, metaphorically speaking, between attackers and defenders, and it will continue to be a game. And unfortunately, it's a game that all of us are going to leave behind. And the new attack strategies, new defense strategies are coming up, even coupled with the emergence of AI. So why does cybersecurity, why does it matter? We know everybody, our daily life now rely on digital system. I remember if I wake up at the middle of the night, the first thing that comes to my mind is check one or two things on my phone. That is how reliant our daily life rely on digital system. You can imagine there is no internet for one day. You can imagine even worse of that. This thing, if it's off for one day, it will be like there will be a chaos in the world. And even in advanced country where everything, the basic critical infrastructure are leveraged on IT, you can't imagine what will happen if these things, if there is an attack that takes things off for one day. I remember in California many years ago, there was an attack to their traffic system, and for 4 days, vehicles could not move. Everybody stood still. So this platform have become vulnerable to attacks, and the frequency of attack continue to rise and posing greater risk. And there are a lot of time, effort, energy, financial that are committed to protecting people from cyber attacks. And what are the key reasons why we all have the rising surge in cyber attacks? Well, just like I've mentioned, we have increased online presence. Everybody now, even the market women, everybody want to be present online because now even, you know, our financial system is almost leveraged on IT. So everybody is online present. So there is increase in online presence. And to those of us who are in this thing, there's a cryptocurrency impact, because either we like it or not, the idea of cryptocurrency has moved in, and we have to cope with it. So many companies are now making use of it. So it's one of the reasons why we have some of these things. And political motivation. Yes, if you look at nations' war now, between the nations, between the different nations now, one of the wars now, one of the ways of their fighting their wars is through cyber attacks. And the strength of a nation, when it comes to military strength of a nation now, is no more dependent on the amount of ammunition they have, but their cybersecurity power. And in fighting those wars, you have the state actors, we have the non-state actors, supported by the state actors, but they pretend to be non-state actors. So there are quite a lot of political motivations as well. Activism, all those things. Then low technical barrier. We now have what we call ransomware as a service, which has lowered the technological barrier, the way the entry level of cyber criminals, which has made it very easy for them to come in. We now have what we call ransomware as a service. And as we go on, we have different types of cyber attack. We have the malware, which includes the viruses we know, the worms, the Trojan horses, the spyware, and all the rest. We have the ransomware, where encrypt data and demands the payment of ransom, just like when somebody is kidnapped and has to pay ransom. We have the idea of social engineering, which includes phishing, for instance, You want to fish about somebody so that you'll be able to use his credentials to attack or to make sure the person falls to prey of this. And we have network attacks, which we call we have the denial of service, and we have what we call also the distributed denial of service, which we call the DDoS. We have DNS spoofing, we have man-in-the-middle attack. We also have web attacks where we have core scripting, SQL injection, and zero-day exploit. Because when you talk of zero-day, and that is because of the dynamism of cyber attack, we have what we call zero-day. And when we talk of zero-day, zero-day attack is the type of attack that has never happened before. Attacks are coming up every day, because if a type of attack has not happened before, there is likely that you don't have prevention mechanism for such an attack. So we have what we call the zero-day exploit. And the hacker ecosystem, we have the black hat hackers. That is, we have individuals who act for malicious purposes, for monetary gain, for political reasons, just like I've mentioned, and they exploit vulnerabilities without permission and never engage in illegal activity. We have white hat hackers, whereby they are employed by organizations to be able to improve their security. For instance, as a federal investor of technology, for instance, we can employ white hat hackers in such a way that they help us test our system where there are vulnerabilities so that it can be fixed. They work with the permission of the organization. And we have the gray hat hackers, those who they operate in the middle. Nobody gives them the assignment, but they can tell you that, oh, they may not have evil intention, but they test whether you are secure or not. And if there is a loophole that is found either in the banking industry or your organization, they notify you. Many of them, most of the time, they notify you, oh, there is a vulnerability that you need to fix. All these are the different types of attack. And we now move to what we call it for us to protect about this. What are the personal cybersecurity best practices? Number one, there must be a strong, as an individual or organization, there must be strong authentication. That is, strong authentication includes the use of unique password, multi-factor authentication system in such a way that authentication will be more than one factor, different scenarios. For instance, it can be a combination of 2 or 3. Then we have the privacy management, appropriate social media settings, limited sharing, because many of us today, there's nothing we cannot share. Everything on social media, our settings are vulnerable, and from there, we become prey to the predators. Then tracking prevention, browser privacy settings, and VPN usage is very, very important. And VPN, you remember some few years ago, when they asked us when Twitter was banned in Nigeria, people moved to VPN. Unfortunately, our country did not know the danger of using the VPN there. When you are tweeting from Nigeria, you can say you are tweeting from America. You can say you are tweeting from South Africa, which is even more dangerous for the government there. Then you have the network security. And the issue is that you must be very careful of using public Wi-Fi. What Wi-Fi is, most especially those of us who travel at the airport, because there's something, when you see something that is free, all of us want to look at, you see a public Wi-Fi that is very free, one of us want to log into it because it is free. There is danger in that. And you have payment protection. You must have secure online transactions and account monitoring system in such a way you don't run prey of some of these things. And what are the
5 minutes left, please?
But no. He doesn't have 5 minutes left. Does he have 5 minutes left?
5 minutes.
To run for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Please carry on, sir.
Yes, sir. You have use of strong password. You must create strong password, about 16 characters long. Never reuse password. Random, it must be a combination of lowercase and uppercase numbers and special cases, and consider paraphrasing. And you must use password manager. Why do you need password manager? It stores your password. And when there is a duplicate password, you are alerted. And it generates stronger password, and some automatically fill the credentials. And when you use password manager, even the password manager does not even know what your password is, because there is something we say in a cryptography. There is a way it does it with hash function in such a way that it doesn't know, and your password is hashed. So that nobody knows it. Even the password manager does not even know the password. Then turn on factor authentication. What is it? A code that is sent to your phone. You will see at times, when you have even logged in, they send a code to your phone or to your email to authenticate. That is multi-factor. Do you have in some distance now? Microsoft has authentication, authenticator application that you can use, that is being used. A security key and biometrics like your finger, face recognition. And why should you use it? You use it for email protection, account with financial information, account with personal information. They are very, very useful and they are very, very important. And how do you protect your home network? Because it's also very important. Not only in your place of work, you must also learn to protect your home network. And the basic security step at home is that many of us have router firmware at home. Keep them updated from time to time, because if they are not updated, they can be vulnerable. Maintain current antivirus software, configure proper router security settings, and use strong Wi-Fi password, just like I've mentioned. And there are intermediate security steps, which a bit might be very professional or technical. Encrypt PC and mobile devices with hard drives. Set up guest Wi-Fi network, not your Wi-Fi that your guests will be using when they are. Set up a different from one so that you are kept safe. Implement regular backups. And there are advanced ones when you segment part of your network for people and you have your own separate one. Monitor unknown devices. When you see an unknown devices on your network, you need to be very sensitive. And there's something we say, create a disaster recovery plan. Because in cybersecurity, we say, there's one language we say when you talk of disaster. When we talk of disaster in cybersecurity, we don't take if disaster occur. We say when disaster occur, because disaster must occur. That is the way we are trained in cybersecurity. We don't say if, we talk of when. And you must also phishing and reporting phishing. Yes, you must phishing red flags. A tone that is urgent. When somebody calls you, that's calling you with a tone that is urgent, you must be very sensitive. Send in an email address that doesn't match your company and it is coming from. For instance, the way I'm bkalicia@twitter.edu.ng, somebody might compose a mail, maybe to my secretary, and the K or A that is there may not be the A in my own, it may be a special character. But if you are not very sensitive, it will look like A. Like somebody, instead of writing O and write 0. If you don't look at it critically, and by the time you reply that person, you release all information, you are gone for it. Unexpected communication source as email you are not expecting, you need to prove further. Required to send personal information, you need to be very circumspect about that. Legitimate organizations don't ask for personal information through email or expected call. Misspelled word or all these things are things you must do. And recognize and report phishing. What do you do if you spot a fish? Number one, don't click links you don't trust. Delete email text you don't expect. Don't click any attachment you are not expecting. Don't send personal information online. And what do you do also? Because we have the do's and the don'ts. Verify that communication is real and contact sender through known phone numbers or email. Report to your IT department in case of any of these things. Use email filters for your email and update your software regularly, because these are the loopholes. These are the areas where loopholes. Update your devices, application. Don't click remind me later. Automate update. Automatic updates are the easiest way to stay secure. It's very important that you automate your updates so that anytime you just this thing is automated without even you knowing. Update your software. Where to find it? You have check notification on your phone. Is there for you to prompt you to automate update your software. Look in your phone, browser application, check the upper pan and all these things. And vulnerable population, as I begin to round up, older adults. Older adults, they are very, very, because some of us here were a bit old, specifically targeted because they often have worse cybersecurity practices, possesses more wealth, and tend to be more trusting than younger people. Cybersecurity education with focus on anti-phishing practices. Let me tell you, in the cybersecurity industry, there are people we call whalers. And who are the whalers in cybersecurity? These are important personalities like our facilitator general now. If you get information about you, they fish about you. That what they fish about you can open up. For instance, if somebody is able to know somebody about the president or the executive secretary, you will know if you just with details of information from the executive secretary and send messages correct to the universities, they will respond quickly. And from there could be a problem. Children are also targeted. They are targeted because they have weaker cybersecurity awareness, because fraud against children, protection strategies, including teaching good practices. And that's why I say, unfortunately, it's late.
I think the time is off now, sir. The time is off now, sir.
Okay. The time is off. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much, Professor Boniface Kayode, for this.
We need to appreciate it.
You've given to us. Thank you. Participants are very happy. At this moment, while you are with some questions, we call on the official Professor of the Association of African Universities, Accra, to give us continental insights and wisdom. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ma. It's my distinct honor to appear before this high-level participants of VICBHE Module 10. Just to say that the previous facilitator has done a very wonderful job, and this has actually reduced the weight that I'm supposed to carry. So thank you very much, Prof, for your insightful presentation. I am speaking on the topic, building a culture of cyber security. The presentation is, we are looking at what is culture, how can we understand organizational culture, and how do we build this into the very fabric of our institutions, of our higher education institutions, and make it a day-to-day behavior as we browse online and as we go about activities. Then we can have a look at some final tips and takeaway. Just to reiterate the other presentation, which talks about the fact that we live in a digital first world and that there's nothing that we actually can do these days without the internet. A lot of our work and a lot of the very structure of how we go about our business is dependent on the internet. And from the cyber threat map, which we undertook an assignment on last week, we could tell that education is one of the top targeted industries, and therefore it's very critical that as higher education institutions, we put a focus and we throw more light in building a cyber secure culture among our stakeholders, among our students, among our faculty, among all those that we work with. As he mentioned again, today is not only about hackers, but we have ransomware, we have phishing, we have data theft, as well as insider risk. Averagely, it is estimated that an institution faces over 1,000 cyber attacks per week. And this is really a high number. And that most breach also involve some form of human error. So humans have been determined as one of the weakest link in through which, attackers and all those who seek to attack our system and to invade our system one way are able to easily do that through us as human, how we behave online, how we are quick to, click on a phishing email and through which they're able to get through to us. This presentation is looking at building a cyber security culture within our institutions. And therefore, it's important to move from what we know, which is culture, to then what is unknown. So what is culture, as we all know, is just a way of life of a group of people, our behaviors, our beliefs, our values, the symbols that we accept, the things that we do when no one is watching, and the things that we are, more tilted towards to as opposed to others. Culture has, various tenets. There are things like our cultural beliefs, our language, our custom, our behavior, the kind of food that would readily run towards to us against others. And therefore, once someone is able to, just view someone within a few seconds, they're able to tell that this person is coming from this cultural background or from that cultural background. So it is a set of shared values, beliefs, norms that influence the way our employees think, how they feel, and how they behave in a workforce. If you come to the account culture in Ghana, we have this rich cultural symbols, which we call the Edinkra. And Edinkra has, there are various symbols that once, just by looking at the symbols, the message that it is conveying. We have what we call the Sankopa, that is this bird that is looking at the back, trying to say that let's go back to our roots. And then there's one that relates to what we are doing, which is security. So this symbol here represents fence, and it's mainly relates to us trying to create a safe space. As you would build a house and put a fence around it, it's also very critical that as we browse online, as we operate as an institution, we are putting in place these fences to protect our assets, to protect our digital assets, to protect our institutions. I thought it would be quite exciting for us to share how some of these cultural norms are featured and then how we can then relate it to cybersecurity. So what then is the organizational culture? We are saying that it is not just about putting policies in place. Having policies in place is one thing, but most of these policies are actually shelved and no one is able to access it, or that they don't even know, what is in it because they are not going to read it on a day-to-day basis. Culture is really reflected in our daily habits, in our attitudes, in our expectations, as we operate within a university environment, as we operate as a business. If you go to the mining sector, for instance, once you get to their gates, you are most likely to see all of them fully, clothed up, wearing their helmets, because it is a culture there to protect yourself all the time, not because it's mandated by management, but because you need to protect yourself from personal harm. And therefore, in a strong culture, we are all likely to do the right thing naturally, not because you've been told to do it, but it becomes a norm, it becomes automatic, and we all move collectively to ensure that each of us is safe and our digital assets are also safe. Cybersecurity, I will not spend so much time here because this was a key part of our lessons last week, but it's mainly about protecting our digital systems, our networks, and sensitive data, and making sure that we are securing its confidentiality, its integrity, and its availability. As I mentioned also, the human behavior is just as important. Whilst institutions try to put in place key technological tools, making sure that firewalls are, installed and running, and encryption and all of those intrusion detection systems are in place. But we need to equally focus on the human behavior, mainly by making sure that capacity is built. So what then is cybersecurity culture? It is the set of values, the behaviors, the practices that are shared across an organization to protect our assets. This would typically, a typical strong cybersecurity culture would move beyond awareness. So when we are encouraged to move beyond just knowing to actually acting, to behaving responsibly, to reporting suspicious activity, and then to avoiding various risky behaviors, some of which were outlined in the earlier presentation. Also, typically, you would find that once you mention cybersecurity, it's seen as the business of the IT department and not the business of everyone else in the institution. Once there's any form of threat, once there's any form of attack, please, can we call the IT people to come and deal with this? But we are encouraging that at an institutional level, there has to be strategic measures put in place to ensure that every staff, every team member, every faculty, every student at least knows the basic things to do once there's any form of threat, or once there's any form of risk that they have detected. Now we take a look at the foundation of a strong cybersecurity culture. What should, at an institutional level, the first presentation focused on individual level. Now at an institutional level, what do we expect to see, or what are the requirements? We would expect leadership commitment. There's indeed very little that the rest of the team members can do if they don't see that leadership commitment. And I'm particularly excited that in this room, the room is full of leaders, it's full of, top managers that are here. And therefore, us as leaders need to prioritize cyber security and show commitment. We need to put in place deliberate measures to ensure that there's training and education that is going on, regularly on a monthly basis and across the year on a weekly basis, or, at a pace that we determine. But we need to make sure that we are being deliberate about educating our staff, because we don't want to be attacked through a staff not knowing what to do and through the human behavior aspect. We also want to be sure that there are clear and accessible policies. But like I mentioned, the policies are important, but we need to actually act it out. But they have to be in place, and we need to educate team members so they know what to do, who to report to, and things should actually be clear. We don't want to wait till our systems have been hacked or we've been attacked before we are now trying to quickly put in place a policy. The rule of thumb is to have it in place and make sure that people know what it contains, and they have at least tried it out, by you simulating an attack or something of that sort. So people should readily have an idea of what to do when it happens. You don't only bring out the policy when something has actually happened. We should also promote open communication channel. Let staff feel comfortable to report an incident or an issue or any threat that may have come their way. If they think that people will start talking about them, about why did you even click this? How come you don't know? A whole professor, you expected to know this. If we don't keep our communication channels open, people would also feel uncomfortable to report. And therefore, it would even deteriorate the attack even further. The attackers would have more time to launch a full-scale attack. So the earlier the report gets to authorities, the better it will be for us. Accountability and recognition as well. We need to hold people accountable and reward secure behaviors to reinforce good practices. How do we build a cyber secure culture again? We need to raise awareness, as I've mentioned. We need to integrate security from day one. Once you employ a new staff member that is joining, once we have a new group of students coming, level 100 or 100 level, as we say in Nigeria, as part of their orientation, you need to make sure that aspects related to cybersecurity, being safe online, is included. I'm sure some of us do it, but perhaps in some institutions it's not done. This would be a great feedback that we can give to our human resource unit to start including aspects. And us being part of this VICBHE model could actually be invited to deliver that session to those level 100 or 100 level students. You also have to reinforce it. As I mentioned, training has to be continuous. You should, in some instances, simulate some of these attacks, of course, with approval from the right authorities, just to help you identify where the gaps are, and then you would know what strategies can be implemented to fill those gaps. You don't want to wait until something has actually happened and we don't know whether we should go left or we should tell, right, and we are also confused. You also want to be sure that there are some visual cues that are around, posters and intranet messages. We have institutional, professional WhatsApp groups of students. Can we have some basic flyer designs that from time to time we are sharing to them with some tips that are given from VICBHE, shared more widely across our students group. You also want to promote inclusive culture. Over here at this diagram, we are mainly saying that the security culture has to be tackled from the two angles, the organizational level, that is at the institutional level, and then at the individual level, which Prof had earlier delivered his presentation to us on. We are looking at these key dimensions, assets. What measures are we putting in place to ensure that our assets are protected? How do we ensure that there's continuity, business continuity once something happens? Are you keeping your data all at one place on a physical stored drive sitting in your office on your desk, or you have some backup somewhere on the cloud? Are you in touch with some insurance institutions? They have various offers to ensure continuity of business once anything happens to your your current assets or your data or anything of that sort. You also want to ensure that you are putting stringent measures in place as concerns access and trust. And in terms of access, as we learned last week as well in our session, you need to make sure that you are giving people the least privilege to be able to access the information that they need only for their purposes, and not necessarily the wider database, the wider framework, the wider system. They might not need all of that. Are you also making sure that only people of trust, people of key positions are the only ones who have access maybe to your passwords storage or to your key documents? Not somebody who has come on an internship program staying with us for only 1 month, only 2 months, after which they are going away, but yet you've given them access to a huge, institutional database that is of high value to the institution. So as an institution, you also need to make sure that you are putting in place some of these measures and these mechanisms. Even as you move about your day-to-day operations on the defense aspect, as well as security governance, do we have a team? Have you constituted a team that meets regularly to look at the security aspect of your institution? What has evolved? What should we be looking at? Where are the loopholes? How do we fill it in? It has to be the responsibility of everybody, but overseen by some people who are in charge of it. Otherwise, some key things as an institutional level will not be done because it's assumed it's everybody's responsibility, but then it's nobody's responsibility. So there has to be
5 minutes more, 5 minutes more, 5 minutes more.
Okay, all right, thank you very much, sir. I'm almost wrapping up. So what are the key benefits of this strong cybersecurity culture? You would agree that by all of us adopting this culture, making it part of our day-to-day activities, will be helping to protect our research, and therefore intellectual property. We would be building trust with students and their partners, because students would not want an attack where their results are, publicly available somewhere, or that some group of students were able to hack into the system to retrieve questions, the examination questions. So you really need to prioritize this cybersecurity culture so that it helps to build trust for the institution. You would also be helping to reduce the risk of, costly breaches, because breaches can be very expensive, both financially and then in terms of how long it can even take you as an institution to recover, from some damage. This could be reputational damage. It can take you years before you're able to get back on your feet. And then generally to enhance your institutional reputation as well. We are saying that we can, for instance, put in place monthly awareness tips, which is sent via email, or it can even be made as email signature. When you send out some other communication, automatically there is some prompt down there that would regularly remind people to be cyber secure, to be cyber aware, and to practice basic cyber hygiene. We can also institute annual cyber hygiene training, and then the phishing simulation exercises that I mentioned earlier. We are also saying that cybersecurity is not just a business for the IT unit, for the IT department, but it's a shared responsibility, and we all need to come together as a team to empower ourselves, but most importantly, to also empower our institution so that it is looked at that level. We are saying that some of all these may look a bit too broad, but we are saying we can actually start small, and that awareness is what will lead to action. Start small at your own corner, within your own unit, within your own department. How can you start this so that it is then brought into at the institutional level, because you have example to show. We are also saying that a culture of cybersecurity is equal to a safer academic environment, which will then allow us to focus on our key task of teaching and learning, of research, of community service, of fundraising, to support our key goals as higher education institution. On that note, I would end here. Thank you very much for this excellent opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, our dear iconic Professor Felicia Nkrumah, for this Ghanaian intellectual delicacy. We enjoy this superbly. At this moment, it is time for question. Noble colleagues,
Your Excellency, Ambassador Ma, if you don't mind, Your Excellency, Ambassador Ma, Professor Akinwumi, who is the co-chair, you recall that we called him and he didn't respond. I also made him.
Yes, sir.
I also made him. Yeah, he didn't respond. I also made him co-host. So, but he sent me a message now that he's in the room. What do you want to do, ma'am? Maybe ask him to speak for a minute, or maybe he closes, towards the end. So I don't know. Whatever you direct.
Our own dear co-chair, Professor Felix Akinwumi, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, he is also not active, so maybe you want to carry on.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Participants' questions. Professor Yaku, your questions, sir. Participants are muted. Facilitator General.
No, I've omitted them. When you call them, I ask them to unmute. No problem. If they don't, let's do this way, man. If you call the person is not ready, he's not showing his video, go on to the next. As you call, I get them to
Professor Yakub, you have the floor. Your question, sir.
Thank you very much, Ambassador.
Maybe not necessarily question. It could be comment. It could be observation.
Or contribution.
And you just have 1 minute. 1 minute or contribution. Yes.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Ambassador. My question is to Professor Alessia. In his presentation, he mentioned that we should not click on "remind me later." I believe there are some genuine websites that you walk and then sometimes they ask you to remind me later, and you click on that from a genuine website. So can he explain further why we shouldn't click on remind me later?
Okay, he's taking note of that. Professor Olajide Adejoke, your question, ma'am? Professor Samuel Adebisi, your question, please. All right, Oladeji.
Thank you so much, ma. I've been falling victim of cyber attack.
Sorry to interrupt again. We have some rule here. Sorry, Professor Adejoke. We have some rule here. When you are called, you let us know the institution. I've said it too many times. You let us know the institution where you are from. Let us showcase our institutions, please.
I'm so sorry, sir. I'm Olajide Adejoke from the Lagos State University.
Wow, Oplasu.
Thank you, sir. I've been falling into the how best can we combat the attack of cybercrime? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. He's taking record of that. Professor Samuel Adebisi. Professor Elizabeth Mangai, your question, please. Professor,
yes. My name is Elizabeth from the Federal College of Fisheries and Marine Technology.
My question you know the rules. If you don't see the video, then we'll move on to the next.
Professor,
you know, the rules are very simple.
Thank you, ma'am.
Professor, okay. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. I am Tunde Osoyinbi from Yaba College of Technology. I am Tunde Osoyinbi from Yaba College of Technology. My question focuses on the first topic, keeping individual cyber secure. The lecturer made us understand that the CIA has been expanded to include some factors. I would like him to please repeat other factors. We have C, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. He mentioned other 3 factors. Please, I want him to just recap on the other 3 factors and the relationship. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Professor Osanyibi. Professor Ibrahim Abdul-Ganihu.
Thank you very much. I'm Professor Jawundo from the University of Ilorin. Having listened to these 2 lectures, I need to appreciate our facilitator general for the tutorial. Otherwise, we would not have been very, very appreciative of what has been doled out to us now. So we appreciate them a lot. Thank you very much, the facilitator general, for the tutorial.
Thank you so much. Thank you very immensely. Professor.
Your Excellency Ambassador, let me tell you what we normally do in VICBHE. Because you see, there are several experts that are not able to come down to our level, They'll be speaking big grammar there, their language. That is why for every VICBHE delivery, we'll try to water it down for you. For instance, there's no big language that has been used in these 2 lectures and that we use throughout this course that we don't have some idea about. So, Professor Ibrahim Abdul-Ganiyu, that is just the essence. We want to make it as easy. There are professors of Igbo, of Yoruba, of Hausa in the room. But what I've found about experts is that they will come and I don't know whether it's some big man's complex. They'll be talking all these big things. So that is why lesson 1, lesson 2, and other lessons will try as much as possible to water it down for you, so you'll be able to appreciate the language that they are using. And by the way, our professor from Ghana, I supervised a PhD thesis in cybersecurity education. And I tell you something, and you got to give her a round of applause. I got the best expert in the whole of the US to examine our thesis. Did you know that you can see Professor Moses Akombi, who is my Dean of Science already here. The professor from the US didn't have one simple correction to make in Professor Nkrumah's thesis. I supervised our thesis. No single correction. So please appreciate the Professor Felicia Nkrumah for very well done thesis on cybersecurity education. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm honored.
Yeah, thank you. Our hostess, are you there, ma'am? Our host?
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, I am. At this moment, we can give opportunity to the our lecturers to respond to the questions already asked before we move on. Professor Boniface Kayode Alesha, could you respond to the questions?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Matu. There are just 3 questions I could put down here. The idea of remind me later. You know, when you see prompt for an update and you are supposed to update immediately, when you say remind me later, you are making yourself vulnerable to attack, because the update, the owner or the developer of the software has most of the time discover some bugs that could make you vulnerable, and they have fixed it, and that is why they want you to update. So when you say remind me later, the more you delay the update, the more vulnerable you are. That is why you don't click on remind me later. Otherwise, you are making yourself more vulnerable. I think that is the answer. On the issue of what to do when you are you are attacked, or the truth of the matter is that cybersecurity is very distinct. There are certain steps. You talk of incident management. For instance, it's just like somebody when he's bitten by a snake. You first of all isolate the place. You isolate the place before you start the treatment. There's something we call incident management. There's something we call disaster recovery. After the incident management, you talk about disaster recovery. And that's why I said in cybersecurity, we don't talk of if disaster occurs. We say when disaster occurs, because disaster must occur because of the dynamism in cybersecurity. And the last thing you do is what they call the business continuity. How do you, when you are managing the disaster, how do you continue with your business? It's something that is very, very wide, but it's something, those are just the 3 steps: incident management, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Maybe we'll have another time to talk about that. And the last question is on the issue of CIA. I said some other things have been added. Number 1 is what we call non-repudiation. Non-repudiation means that, for instance, if I send you a threat message now that, oh, I'm going to kill you tomorrow, non-repudiation means that there must be no way that I will deny the authorship of the message. It must be traced to me. That is what they call non-repudiation. It has been brought in. The issue of access control. There are layers of access depending on the roles you play. And that's what brings us to the issue of role management and all the rest. So access control has also been brought in. The issue of fault tolerance as well. If there is a problem and there is a fault in the system, how do we continue to use the system despite the presence of that fault? And that is what we mean by fault tolerance. And the other one is authentication. There are quite a lot of them that have been brought in because cybersecurity keeps expanding every day. It keeps expanding day out. Let me stop there for now because of our time.
Thank you very much, Professor Felicia Nkrumah. While we congratulate you for being supervised by our own dear Solicitor General, we urge you to take over the questions thrown to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think none of the questions was directed at me.
No,
but
no
just
question.
to take the opportunity to think.
Okay, let us continue.
Let's go on, Professor Nkrumah. Let's just go on. Because there are so many people who want to take the floor. So no question was directed at Professor Isi. No question.
Thank you very much.
Your question, please.
My name is Professor Lawrence Obonnaya from Alex Ekweme Federal University, Ndufu, Alike, Ebonyi State.
So
I have a comment on
somebody whose video is not on. I'm not sure I'm seeing the person. Professor Isi.
My video is on, sir. My video
can anybody
is on.
see him?
We can't see you. We can't see you, Professor
Isi. You post it now. If we don't see the video,
Professor Nuruddin Yusuf, can we hear from you? Nuruddin, Professor Yusuf. Professor Ogunbiyi Seliat.
From University of Abuja. Nuruddin Yusuf to University of Abuja. My question is just on the issue of institutional mechanisms that protects individual within an institution from cyber threats. How do we strengthen this institutional framework that can assist members of, for example, university community from being exposed to cyber threats?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Bamayi. Professor Ogunrinde Olufemi.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much.
We are listening, sir.
Yeah,
Professor Gabriel Ifanyu Kafo. Your question, please. Your comment, your contribution. Professor Moses Akapi
is already active.
Professor Chinyelu Ekunife.
Already active. Oh.
Your question or contribution. Professor
Okay, Professor Udo, Inel Kong Udo.
Good afternoon, everyone from University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. University of Nigeria, Enugu campus. My question goes to Dr. Felicia Nkrumah. First and foremost, I want to thank her for that excellent lecture she delivered.
Excellent.
I want to throw more light and build trust with students and partners as one of the benefits of a strong cybersecurity culture. I didn't quite really understand how that could build trust with students.
Thank you, Professor Bamayi.
Yes, Professor Bamayi from University of Jos. I just have 2 questions. The first one is the speaker talked about the need to keep updating our softwares.
Which speaker, sir? Professor Bamayi, which speaker? There were 2 speakers.
Yes, the first. So we are told that when we keep updating also, you know, that it runs the data, you spend a lot of data, and sometimes you're in the middle of doing something and it will ask you to update. And it can be quite problematic, updating, you know, continuously all the time. How do we handle that? Then lastly,
thank you. That's fine. That's fine. So that many more people can take the floor. Professor Gabriel Okafor.
Thank you, Professor General. I'm Gabriel Okafor from the University of Nigeria, Africa. My question goes to Professor Kayode Boniface Adeshe. It's on vulnerable population. They earmarked the elderly and children. Yes, while it is true, but I want that section to be refined or reviewed to capture those who are not cyber secure alert or aware, who don't have the knowledge. You can't tell me that the emeritus professor with us here will be easily conned because he's an elderly person, or a child of 5 years or 10 years who is internet intellectually strong in the cybersecurity. You can't con the person. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, Professor Okafor. Professor Moses Akombi, Dean of Science.
Yes, thank you very much, Facilitator General. Moses Akombi is my name from Lagos State University. 2 comments that I want to make. One, to thank our Facilitator General for bringing this lecture down to the earth, using things in our environment, which is what he has introduced to us in the CCA, in our African Center of Excellence for STEM Education in Lagos State University. My main comment goes to Professor Aleshe from FUTA, and I'm looking at how do we develop a system, those who are professional in cyber security, system to be able to discover when hackers or attackers have manipulated URL, as from our lecture that the video that came out in the morning. You can imagine if GT Bank, for instance,
Bank. Can you be brief, sir? Can you be brief? I have about
yes, I'm hitting it on the nail now, sir. GT Bank has A in their URL. GT Bank A. That A can be written in different way. The one that we use that is similar to art. If an attacker change the normal A to that kind of A, it can lead you to another. So how do we develop the system in such a way that people can easily discover? Thank you very much.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon, Facilitator General, the host, and everybody in the house. I am Professor Chinyelu Ekunife from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. The first speaker mentioned vulnerable populations that are exposed to these attacks. He mentioned adults and children. So I want to know what age he's referring to as children. Is that our youth or
Thank you.
Those in the primary school?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Professor Dimson Ifeyiwa, and I'll take two more others, and we'll go on from there.
Okay, thank you. I'm Dimson Ifeyiwa from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Okay. My question is of concern and is directed at Dr. Felicia. Talking about culture, we find out that the degradation in workplace culture. Now we want to bring in culture. As a leader, I'm worried that we can culture.
Oh, right. Yeah, your network will appear to not be cooperating, Professor Ifeyiwa. I'm so sorry we got to end this very lively session right now. And let me see how many hands I have 15 hands up. So I really must apologize because we're going to take 1 minute each from our speakers to respond, 1 minute each, and then there'll be some announcement because as you know us, we will start on time and end on time. Professor Alishi, the floor is yours. 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Well, just rounding up the question or responding to the question. For instance, we talk of adults, the children, and the elderly people. The elderly people, because they tend, statistics have shown that they tend to have worse cybersecurity culture and they tend to be more trusting. But for the children, it takes longer. If something, you will discover, if something, when you talk of children, we talk of children maybe around 10, 11. If something happened to children, you will discover it takes longer time to discover than somebody who is an adult.
All
so
right.
it takes longer time.
Thank you, sir. 1 minute is done. Thank you, sir. Dr. Felicia Nkrumah, the floor is yours for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. There was a question about what should be done at the institutional level. Just to reiterate that there was the issue of leadership, championing a cybersecure environment through having policies in place, also making sure that even when we need to pay for things, viruses, firewalls, normally, there are several demands. So we need to prioritize such renewals and such payments. You should also make people see the benefits in terms of why they should want to ensure a cybersecurity environment. There was also another one related to building trust. I would like to say that institutions or even students would really trust your systems if they know that another student has not been able to hack into the system, and parents would want to know that.
Thank you very much. The time is up. Thank you, Professor Felicia Nkrumah. Thank you, one and all. By way of announcements, there are two of them. One is that, we got some mails that, let us have the Friday tests to run throughout Friday. And I wrote back to the people to say, this is the 10th edition. Let me tell you what used to happen. In the first one, Buju 1, we'll give you time, just come in and go. A lot of bad things were happening. You get people, will get the login credentials of some others after doing their own, they go and do for another one, they go and do for the other one. And then if we say, have it for 2 hours, say from 5 to 7, come anytime. So what used to happen is that those that have been there would take screenshots of the thing and then start propagating. So we thought that, look, the best thing to do, let everybody come in within that particular period of time. And if you, so that's the reason. The other is that, I think modules 1, 2, 3, we just say, okay, fine. The PowerPoint files of the presenters, we just share. By the third lesson or something, we hardly found people. So we said, okay, fine, we're not going to share this. And I've already conveyed that in the, conveyed it in the newsletter. So thank you, Professor Moses Akobi, for doing that. But the good news is that for this one, don't think it will happen to the next one. I'm going to ask Dr. Felicia Nkrumah, send me your PowerPoint file. Professor Alishi, send me your PowerPoint file, and I will share with all of you today. How about that? That one is good. And by the way, we are streaming live. So if you go to YouTube now, you'll find the recording of the thing. It's not going to happen next week. Oh, it's not going to happen next week because many of you know. And just 1 hour, please, just 1 hour. On that note, is our host back, Professor Ambassador? Are you back in the room? No, she's not. Professor Akiwumi, are you in the room so that you can close the session? Professor Akiwumi is not. On behalf of the host, the chairman, and everybody, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to advise that, Wednesday discussion forum, by tomorrow, just compose, the title or the topic for discussion forum. Just compose it and post it on Wednesday.